Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast for UW Film Club. My name's Sofia Geherin. I'm this year's podcast lead. I'm not a CMS student, but tonight I'm here to talk about Mulholland Drive by David Lynch, which is very exciting, very confusing movie, and I'm joined by three big fans of the movie. So do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah. I'm Viridian Klei. I am not associated with the CMS department, but I have been in film club pretty much my entire time at college, so nice. This is fun. It's one of my top 4 movies, I think, so yeah.
I am Logan Smith, and I am not affiliated with the CMS department. Any bad takes are not reflective of the University of Washington. Yeah, it's cool.
I'm Wil Moreau, and I'm also not affiliated with the film department. I am unfortunately a bio major.
Very nice. So that looks like we've got 4 people who don't know what they're talking about.
But I'm prepared to make like crazy plans.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's the way you should do it with this movie, because it's just like there's a lot. And so typically at the start of an episode, I'll give a little bit about the movie, like a summary. I think this might be an exception. I mean, I think if you're familiar with David Lynch's work, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. Just kind of a lot of, it just feels like a dream. I think it kind of is. You know, I think that's appropriate in this situation. But yeah, oftentimes it's just a lot of like interesting details that kind of feel like you're being led astray or down a path that you don't really know where you're going. But yeah, so I guess, yeah, this movie came out in 2001, by the way. And also spoilers ahead for certain. So if you haven't watched the movie, stop now. But I guess, does anyone have like a just kind of general summary, not a one sentence, but general summary that they want to throw out? It's kind of a tough one. I should have written it down in advance.
I feel like you would be good at that. I'll put you on the spot.
We could try. I mean, obviously, like we start with a car crash, right? And we end up later learning it's this character that is called Rita because of some posters she sees. It's not her actual name. And she meets another character named Betty, and it's basically just like about their kind of journey to try and uncover what Rita's identity is because she has amnesia from the car crash. In the background, there's a whole bunch of other kind of vignettes and characters that are interconnecting. And then at the end, it gets kind of wonky and in terms of plot and understanding and who's who and who's named who. But I think kind of overarching themes I've noticed, especially as what is Hollywood? You know, how does Hollywood treat women? How does Hollywood change women? And what is kind of an actress at different points in celebrity, at different points in fame, at different points of getting kind of washed through the LA system. So
yeah, that was awesome. That was actually perfect. Thank you. Anybody have any? I don't have anything to add, so I think that's perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Just as you said it. But yeah, I guess I just rewatched this movie last night, and the first time I watched it was I think maybe my first year of college, and I didn't pay enough attention, and I was kind of I don't really know what the big idea is here, but I was hoping that the rewatch would help, and I kind of got it a little bit more. But I think that, I mean, it's a 2.5-hour movie, and a lot of it I was like, you know what, I just don't really care. So, I finished the movie 3 out of 5 stars, but I think that I may be crucified for having that opinion and broadcasting it. So I'm curious to hear what you guys like about the movie. Because you guys are all fans.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'm asking because I did 3 women with someone who didn't like the movie and someone who did. That was awesome. But yeah, just let me know what you guys like about the movie. If you want to throw in what you gave it on Letterboxd, just for comparison, I'd love to know. And if you have anything you don't like about the movie.
I can start.
Sure.
I, first of all, gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd because I love that movie, and I love David Lynch. Kind of for the specific reason that all of his movies are so textural. For me, it's hard to watch, even when we rewatched it, it's hard for me to interpret it literally. In fact, we were talking afterwards about, the more formal meaning of the story, and it was interesting, but it also wasn't the experience. I think the experience very much came from, the iconography that he uses and the way he stages things. And in that sense, I just really enjoy being immersed in his kind of stylistic world.
I think I agree. I think that's a major component of why that movie is so successful, and at least one of the major draws for me. I was I could be not talking to my friend right now and paying a little bit closer attention, but even throughout, even if I was just kind of sat in the room in the middle of the movie, it's beautiful. It's kind of got this veil of kind of greasy camera looking situation over it. And it's just, I don't know, it's got all the ambiance of getting to Hollywood and the beautiful apartment that what's her name, Betty, is living in, sort of. Anyway, it's got such a visual pull, and especially I think the similarities between this one and Blue Velvet, just the theater scene. I mean, like it's both kind of like a red backdrop, just the theater. But I think those have the dreamlike quality, and that's something that I love about Blue Velvet. That I think maybe just because that movie is a little bit shorter or like about something different, like it works. That one works, and this one doesn't work as well for me. But I get the appeal. But yeah, Logan.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. It's about the experience. It's less about the literal, meaning of it. I did a lot of, or I watched it like a month ago when it came out in IMAX around here when they were doing their David Lynch tribute, and that was my first time seeing it in about a year, and I was just like reintroducing myself to the plot and all the little details that I missed. But this time, I was able, or I tried to take notes, write down. I don't really pay attention to I'm not like, I can't watch a movie and like really pick out the film things. So I was trying to do that this time. But it feels ironically very simple. And like looking back on it, the plot and in words, if you were to describe the movie in words, it's very flat and very face value. But as Will was saying, the experience is a totally different animal. That's one of David Lynch's, motifs, or not motifs, MO, is having just like a roller coaster of a cinematic experience. One question that I think about is how much of your opinion of a movie exists after you've watched the movie and like thinking back on it versus when you're watching it in the moment. And I think so much of this movie, or actually it's almost, to me, it's like two different movies. The movie when you're watching it, sitting down, immersed in it, and when you're thinking back on it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that, that's another thing. The first time I ever watched it, I was just like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. But then, I was on YouTube. What does Mulholland Drive mean? Like ending, whatever. And then it's like, okay, now that people are pointing this out and like doing the work that I should have been doing while I was watching or like should have been thinking about, it's like, okay, I'm starting. And like, I think paying attention and then getting to the end and like getting the sort of like symbolism, I guess, of all the little things, or like the meaning of the things in the dream sequence revealed to you. It's like, okay, the apartment key, or okay, like the whatever landlord is actually the director's mom. I think that's like, oh yeah, this is awesome. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like certain bits of all of you have said have resonated with me, but like I think I actually really do like the story, like the plot of it, obviously like I think like the color grading and the textures and sort of like the iconography of like what LA is, like you see some houses that are like very typical LA, like you get like side of like the southwestern style with like the terracotta roofs and the apartment, and then you get like the very glass box, like what is luxury to 2001 director, like you get the guy in his little sports car and you get like the Italian mob boss guys and whatever, right? But like for me, why I like this movie so much, and I think I rated it like a 4.5 or something, is that I really didn't get the last half of the movie the first time I watched it, and then I like sat down with my friend and we were talking about it, and then I was doing the whole thing with Googling, and it was like one of the first movies where there was like a mystery that like I actually was able to kind of like solve, or at least like come up with a theory in my head that like kind of made sense, and like I feel like a lot of other, right, like you do a who's done it or who done it type movie, right, or like anything Agatha Christie-esque, and then like they tell you what the answer is at the end,
for sure.
And like with Lynch and particularly this movie, like it starts out like something that you're supposed to be able to solve, and then it ends with like you actually really can't solve it because there's not like one answer, and like the fact that my brain was tricked into trying to solve it and then still not really being able to, but like kind of getting that satisfaction, like that's why I like it so much, like I think you also commented on like what it means to be someone watching the movie versus like someone who's like looking back on what they watched, and those are kind of very different experiences. And like for me, watching, I don't necessarily like watching this movie as much as I like the movie, but I really like looking back and thinking about how I felt while watching.
Yeah,
so
that's good. I really like that. Do you have like, I don't know, like what was your initial kind of theory, if you remember? Like, I don't know.
I mean, Will and I, we also went to go see like the Lynch tribute version in IMAX. Like that's where we watched it last, and we were talking afterwards, and it was like, for me, I was able to like piece together a lot of the characters in terms of like what is a dream character and what isn't, and like why does Betty, or I don't remember her name when her hair is spiky versus not spiky.
I think it's okay. Like in the dream, it's Betty and Rita, and then they she wakes up, whatever, and Diane is the blonde.
Yes.
And then,
yeah.
Camilla, yeah.
Camilla.
Diane
yeah.
Selwood, right?
Yeah.
So like in my kind of mind, like Diane is picturing herself as Betty because she wants like right like in reality like her version of Rita, aka Camilla, is like like they had whatever sort of relationship, but it was always like her trying to like chase Camilla's fame, chase like a relationship with her, like trying to actually have like romance rather than just like whatever friends with benefits situation they had going on. And like that version of Camilla was dating the director and was living this really fabulous life and like was having all of these things, right? Where like in the dream, right, like Diane as Betty was the one that was like had more wealth and was like young and hadn't been jaded by kind of like the LA system, right?
Definitely.
And like that was kind of like initial theory, but then you bring into it like why is Diane also a character in the dream, kind of like as the prostitute, and like what does the assassinations mean and all that sort of stuff. So like for me, I'm like, okay, like I feel like the kind of basic theory is like solid, but then I have to figure out like how all of these minor characters fit in, and it's like chess, Like,
I think that's good.
I also think it's interesting because it's not like, at least I don't think it's something that you can figure out. I'm sure Lynch had some like crazy notion when he was doing it, but it escapes me. Because the first time I watched it, the whole dream thing totally escaped me.
Yeah.
I thought they were just like kind of parallel universe.
Yeah.
Just to add kind of, I don't know, a mindfuck element to the
Sure.
story. And then when we watched it, you talked about the dream element. I think that's a really good interpretation, a really interesting interpretation too. But I do still think the way that he includes these like vignettes almost of random things, like you said the assassins. It kind of breaks it out of that. It's like it's not firmly set as this dream kind of reality scenario. It's kind of stretching to a point where dream comes into reality, and there's a mix of the elements, and it's still not quite concrete what it is.
Yeah, and I think there's also a lot of like whatever that government shady organization, exactly that, where it's like what are we looking at? Like no one really has any. But I was watching this last night, and one of my friends said that was like, I guess his interpretation or something that he read was that was like, I think Diane's like subconscious trying to pull her back in because they're like finding the name of like the Camilla Rhodes or whatever, and you're starting to get this information. You're like, I don't really know what that means yet, but like it'll be relevant later. So that was one thought about that. But I also like, it could just be meaningless and like that's fine, or like exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I think that's interesting.
And I really also enjoy how like all of those vignettes too, like they are vignettes about Hollywood, but they're like so stereotypical in a lot of ways, right? Like the Italian mob boss, or like the like auteur or like director with his golf club and his Corvette,
chain smoking.
For sure, yeah.
And so like for me, it's like, is that commentary of the fact that we're in a movie, like having movie like characters that could only exist in a movie be in this movie about making movies, or is it like right, like how are we supposed to blend like those feel so away from what a real human being, like what our reality in this world actually is, right? And like I feel like at least like in a lot of ways like Betty and Rita like as characters are pretty grounded compared to the rest of them. So like is that a commentary of like, oh, is that Betty's or Diane's subconscious, or is that just like, I don't know, like because we're viewing it as a movie, therefore they like become almost these kind of like comical like characters, like
I was gonna say something similar to that a minute ago, and I think that it's like even more relevant now that you said that. Like when you're first introduced to Betty as a character, she's whatever at the airport, I think, with I don't know, her parents, and it's just like, oh, like it's like overbearing. She's like, I'm just so excited to like. It's like what is this? Like it's
she's
just
also always front lit.
Yeah, it's just like it's kind of like hammy, but it's like you gotta get the point behind it. But just watching it like maybe out of context, it's like this is just a shitty movie, like a poorly acted movie. But like there's deeper meaning. But that's exactly I think that the kind of portrayal of these characters are just like I don't know the way they do those certain vignettes as kind of just like very exactly as you said it stereotypical. Like I like that. I like the.
I also think it's interesting because you said earlier that it feels kind of flat plot-wise,
Mm-hmm.
and I totally agree. And I think that the like kind of images and iconography that Lynch is drawing from in this one are very much like stereotypical movie elements. Like they're not necessarily the iconography of LA as it really is.
Yeah.
It's the like movie portrayal of it, and I think that's like with the like you said all the director stuff. And, and then when you get even. Something that struck me was the two sex scenes. There's one in the dream, and it's like super kind of like 80s sex scene with the
Yeah.
soft lights and the cameras.
Yeah.
And then there's the sex scene towards the end where it's just like static camera, super like not realistic per se, but a lot more grounded.
Yeah,
and I
for
think
sure.
that was an interesting contrast kind of between the two.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good point. Yeah, a lot of the stuff in the dream sequence is just very much like you could have cut it out of any other movie and just put it in there, and yeah.
But, like, there's something weird, too, like, right, we're talking about, like, when Betty's first introduced and, like, the lighting on her is, like, so stark, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like every single scene I see for the first, like, 10 minutes of the movie, I'm like, whoa, like, this is a movie scene, you know?
Yeah,
And, like,
exactly.
I kept, because, like, the second time, or whatever time that was watching it, the most recent one, like, I kept, because I knew there was, like, a dream sequence at some point, I kept expecting it to have, like, this sudden shift. And, like, even when we're not, like, in the dream, it's still using, like, movie shots, you know? Like, the scenes are still directed in, like, a movie way, you know? Like, the end party scene where we're kind of, like, figuring out everyone's relationship to each other in reality when we're having, like, the flashback to Diane's kind of original life. Like, it's still, like, looks like a movie. The fact that all of these characters are in this room and at this party and eating this food and drinking whatever alcohol they're drinking, right, with these like specific cups, like it never feels like there's a like change in the direction or a change in like the kind of like cinematography of the scenes between like reality and like whatever dream sequence, which I think really contributes to like how confusing it is as a plot.
That's good. Yeah. One thing I was going to ask about is like, what's everybody's input on the like infamous kind of intro diner scene with the shit your pants jump scare?
Yeah, I guess that still gets me.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Seriously.
It's. I mean, everybody knows it's how you use the camera, how you use sound, but just even knowing the background of how you make something so mundane, scary.
Yeah.
It's. There's a lot of moments in this movie where I'm trying to take notes. I've seen it before. I'm showing my friend the movie, and I just dropped my pencil. And there are just so many scenes. You know, her audition scene, Club Silencio. It's even though it's kind of satirical in a way, it's still just like drawing on these classic Hollywood techniques and just making a masterclass out of it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's, I mean, like, just on a, like, just very basic level, that scene is so effective. Because, I mean, I think the point of it is kind of like it's telling you, like, this is a dream, you know, because he's like, yeah, in my dream, you're standing over there. And then it cuts and he's standing, you know. So it's like, it's kind of in your face. I guess if you pick up on it, I don't think this is something that somebody told me before I watched the movie. So it's like, yeah, I totally see that. But I think I maybe would have missed that otherwise.
Yeah, that escaped me the first
Oh,
watch.
yeah. But it's just, I mean, like the guy's kind of face, he's so nervous, and then they walk outside and it's pretty silent. And it's not like a kind of jumping out at you, whatever. It's just a really slow reveal, broad daylight, and it's so scary. It's so well done. Every time I see it, it scares me every time, and I know it's coming.
There's something about like the way his eyebrows look too, that it's just like, it's like, oh, like you're terrified right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
The look he gives to the other guy.
Yeah, he's
"Oh
like
my God."
sweating a little bit. It's, yeah.
And it's like, right, but like, was that scene itself a dream because it was referencing dreaming and like all the characters ended up in the same spots they were supposed to be? Or was it like him having some kind of like precognition, you know? Like, was it like, I've been dreaming of this for weeks, I need to like get through it, you know? And then like, that's like, oh, he was like meant to be scared or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I think it's also cool because that same diner ends up being like a pretty common set.
Exactly.
Like the conversation with the prostitute is there. The whole like when they meet the quote unquote real Diane.
Yeah.
Is that the one? The waitress?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that also is kind of interesting to like set it in this place that's been established as at least a little bit departed
Kinda
from
odd.
reality.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if there is an actual answer to this or this is just whatever, but like, is there a tie-in, like an explicit tie-in for that kind of jump scare scene to like Diane's dream, or is it just kind of like you take whatever you want to take out of it?
I think I heard, or I had watched something that said that, because that was the place where she handed off the key to, or she handed off the money to the hitman.
Yeah.
And that was that bringing her back to that same location, and I guess manifested by the dreaming guy, the scared dreaming guy, is being confronted by the evil that you had done, and something so penetrating to your soul.
Yeah. Okay.
Is how I describe it.
Okay, there you go. I kind of was like, I don't know, maybe it's just like, maybe it's the intro to a dream. I don't know. Like,
And I think also, like, because that's the first time we see, like, the real Diane in the dream, right? And then we later find out that she's, like, a prostitute, too. Like, there's something I read about, like, how this is supposed to be, like, an allegory for, like, the casting couch, right? And, like, obviously, like, during her audition scene, we see Betty kind of, like, lose a lot of that, like, innocence, but, like, she doesn't really change as a character, which I find really interesting. But then it's, like, obviously we know Diane has been, like, really exploited by the Hollywood system and by directors and by, like, the original Camilla as well, right? And so for me it was like, oh, like, this diner is kind of, like, marking when somebody is in, like, a really low place, right? Both in terms of, like, hiring the assassin and, like, trying to, like, you know, doing something on all these, like, emotions and stuff that you're feeling, but also, like, this is the time when we realize, like, what her low actually is, you know, like, what happens when you fail out of the system, like, what then do you become? And, like, you have to, like, kind of, like, confront that reality and confront whatever monster behind the dumpster, you know?
For sure. The other thing I have written down is, like, what is your favorite scene, but we can save that for later if you guys want to put that at the end. But anything else that anyone has?
I guess just some quick questions for each of you. What emotion or a couple of emotions does this movie instill in you? Because it's a very mixed bag. It can change from second to second, minute to minute.
I guess, like, I don't know. I mean, outside of just, like, confusion, like, I don't know. I think that, like, watching it, I feel a lot of just kind of empathy towards the characters. I mean, at first, like, it's just, I mean, that's pretty basic, but it's like you're seeing this girl who doesn't know who she is. It's like, oh, that's that. But then it kind of, like, switches on her, and then you see Diane in this, like, just horrible state, and her neighbor's knocking on the door, like, asking for her stuff back. And yeah, I think that just I don't know, general sympathy, empathy for these, like, female characters that are just being brutalized a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That's just to get it started. I guess that's not that profound. Just it's kind of damn.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I feel like in the first half, kind of like you said, how there's, like, a mystery that's being kind of drip fed to you. Very much get the impression that it's going somewhere and you're going to figure something out.
Yeah.
So I very much felt like kind of the beginning of a mystery film where you're kind of invested in the story, and then I specifically remember this place because it's the scene where they find Diane, like, because that for me is by far the most impactful scene.
I was just I was gonna bring that up later. I'm glad you yeah.
So that, like, kind of shifted how I felt about it, and from that point on, it was more, like, kind of critical and uneasy. So I think
I was going to say the same thing. I think just up until that point, I mean, the whole movie's it's pretty consistent with its tone, just in, like, a general sense, but then you get to that scene and it's like, you get this super graphic kind of grisly close-up and it's like, ooh, it's serious now. Like, we need this is getting more intense as we go on. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I think that's my favorite scene in the movie because it's just so, like, wow, it's like slap in the face, but yeah.
Yeah. I, like, up until that point, because everyone is, like, I couldn't really, like, get into the characters as being actual people, so I was like felt like a kind of, like, weird amount of distance. Like, this might be, like, a really weird reference, but in my high school Spanish class, we had to, like, watch this movie that was, like, specifically made to, like, teach you Spanish. It was called, like, it was, like, about some, like, weird basement that someone's uncle had or something. Yeah. But, like, it was a movie that was split up into these short little episodes where there was these people from, like, 2009, and the acting was so weird because it was, like, supposed to be, like, with a year 3 Spanish vocabulary or something, right? And, like, that's how I felt about the entirety of the first half of Mulholland Drive, where it's, like, these people are just talking like they're, like, caricatures of themselves, you know? Like, I can't empathize with them because I don't even, like, feel like people, you know? It's, like, what is, like, a wannabe actress in Hollywood with a famous aunt leg? Like, once you know that, you can, like, predict every single one of Benny's lines, you know? Yeah, definitely. Like, so I think, again, up until we have the whole, like, Diane reveal, right? And until that kind of, like, scene with, like, the neighbor, right? And she's like, oh, we moved houses. Like, that's, like, the first time there's, like, feels like there's any tension because it's, like, it's not predictable what's going to happen. Because, like, then it moves from being a movie where you know everyone's motivations and everyone's background and everyone's story based off of, like, 3 descriptors and into something where it's, like, what is going on, you know? And, like, the last time I watched this movie was in, like, high school, so it was, like, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and, like, I'd built up in my head that there was, like, maggots coming out of her face, and, like, I built up that it was so much more gory, and I, like, had closed my eyes when we were watching the scene, because I was like, I don't want to see that again, you know? And then I opened them and I was like, oh, like, what was I freaked out about, you know?
It's just, it's purely intensity. I think same with the, like, diner jump scare. It's kind of a, grotesque thing to look at, but it's not, like, really jumping out at you with all the gore and this and that. It's
There's,
just like, ugh,
no
like,
blood.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like, oh, they're slightly dirty.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
There's also like an interesting kind of like shock plot wise. I think at that point like stakes become real because the entire first half it's like even the assassination scene where he's like shoots 4 people, no consequence. It feels like
exactly
kind of I don't know sterile or artificial. And then at that point it's like this is real. This is like a real dead person.
Yeah.
It feels like actually someone has died. The stakes are real now.
I think that the movie, like, just throughout, like, your experience watching it, you're kind of being pulled between, like, just this, like, whoa, oh my god, like, this super intense, like, these scenes that are full of tension, and then stuff like that where it's like, it should be intense, but all I'm feeling is just, it's kind of, like, languid, and it's like, wow, like, LA is beautiful. Like, that's kind of, I think that this, like, someone was talking about it earlier, but, like, the setting, and it's just, I don't know, it just kind of looks like it's being filmed through, like, a veil or something. Like, it's kind of beautiful.
There was an extra on the Blu-ray that I watched on with the interview with David Lynch, and he doesn't usually like to reveal his intentions. One thing he did say was just LA, and there's always sunlight out, and so he wanted to capture that, and that's why all the windows there's just light just pouring in. All the characters are well lit, and it's in as a born and raised Seattleite, it's almost an uncomfortable amount of sunlight.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely, it's its own character. Like, I noticed the same thing. I was like, wow, like, it's just so beautiful. I don't know what else is going on. Like, that's all I can, I agree. But I don't know, Logan, what did it bring out? Like, what emotions?
I feel like I tend to be more of an emotional watcher with movies, especially abstract movies.
Yeah.
I think, like, the wooden acting forces me, because, if you have really good acting, you can, people say you can see the emotion, or they tell you their emotion using their face. They don't. It's there, but it's very direct and very wooden. It's like not something you can get, or it's, I guess, opaque is the word you might say. So it forces me to kind of, and on top of the muddled plot, it forces me to assign my own emotions and what I think it's meaning. And it's for me, it's a lot of ping-ponging between this hope and this naivete, as well as just creepiness and unease and existential terror.
Yeah.
And especially towards the end, it's kind of, it converges on existential hope and terror.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Yeah, go for it.
What do you guys think about the old people?
Oh,
Because I remember seeing that scene for the first time, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, was this the ending of the movie?
Yeah, when they're I don't. Oh god. I mean, even just like throughout the entire movie, I think that like the scene. I think it's just right at the beginning when Betty is like at the airport, whatever, and then the two. It's supposed to be her parents, right? Like I don't know.
No, I think they were just random old people she'd been on the flight.
Yeah. Okay. I was the whole time I was like, this can't.
Because it's like they're all like, oh, have fun with your aunt. It's
yeah,
like, why would you not feel like my sister?
You're right.
Like,
Yeah. But then, the scene where they're in the back of the car just, like, smiling at each other. My friend who was, like, sitting in was like, this is worse than the diner scene. This is scarier than the diner scene. It's just, ugh. Like, and then, they crawl into the bag or the whatever. Just, I don't know. I literally,
it feels like, again, kind of what had been happening throughout the movie is highs and lows of bright, colorful stuff to dark and disturbing stuff. And it's taking their happiness and the gentility of old people and using it as the ultimate, basically the thing that kills Betty in the end and turning that on its head.
Oh, and it's like, I feel like too, like there's actually like quite a lot of elderly characters in this, right? Because like we never, I don't even think I guess we hear the aunt on the phone a couple of times.
Yeah.
I don't know if we see her. Okay.
She's like moving out of the apartment.
Oh, right, with
yeah,
the
yeah,
red hair, I
suitcase and
think.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
And like there's the owner of the apartment complex, and there's like the old guys who have that like weird coffee scene where he's like really like specific with his espresso. And like I feel like it's really interesting to have them because and obviously there's like during like the casting, the audition room too, like most of those people are elderly. She's like make out with like a 60-year-old man for this like movie part or whatever. And it's like I feel like it's saying something about the amount of power that people have, or like the people who have made it kind of like through the Hollywood system. Like they're all elderly and they all have this sort of like confidence, right? Like you aren't that nice to like a young budding actress unless you are like rich and have all of this money, you know, like unless you like have all kind of like coasted through and haven't faced those same difficulties. Like why wouldn't you like tell her that, like, you know, like warn her something about, right? Like the old people in the initial scene in the taxi and Betty's all like really excited about it. Like, why are you like happy that this girl is going to go like ruin herself in Hollywood. Because like that's not, people don't move to Hollywood and become actors and like make it. Like that's not how people are like found out, you know? And like, so like it was creepy because it was like, how are you this old and have no experience and have no like perspective on life? But also like, because when we see old people in general, they're supposed to be like jaded in some way, and that was like the opposite of how I would describe that old lady.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because it's like, I feel like in the scene after where they're driving in the taxi, like smiling ear to ear, is really, really like superfluous joy, which almost feels malicious.
I know, it's so creepy. Yeah, it's
feels like
super
they
odd.
know exactly what she's about to get into. And then them showing up at the end after she kills herself is like kind of a weird, like putting them into a circle.
It almost feels like, well, it does feel like this is not Betty's place. This is not or Diane's place. This is not where she belongs. She's trying to carve her way through, but ultimately, it is the older people who have all the power.
Yeah. I guess a similar question is, what do you make of like the very opening scene where it's like the kind of like poorly done, like a bunch of combinations of people dancing like over the purple background? You know, I think
I only just figured that out. Because at the very end, Diane, I guess, says that she got to come to Hollywood because she won a jitterbug contest.
Exactly.
Right?
I was going to say that's the one reference that you get throughout the whole movie that's like, oh yeah, like, okay, that makes sense. But even then, it's just like, why do you think that had to be the opening scene? Because it's kind of like, what the hell? What is this?
But like, was that even jitterbugging? Like, I don't know a lot of jitterbugging.
I don't know that it was.
That was like swing to me. Like, I was like,
I don't know what the like intricacies are there, but I think that I was gonna say the same thing, where that's like kind of the one connection that you get, and it's like, it's gotta be it, right? Like, but it's just still like,
well, like something that was really weird to me is that there's like very little music. Like there's like the little bit in Club Silencio, but then it's like, that's fake the entire time anyway. So it was like, I don't know, like whenever I think about LA, I think about like rock and roll or something, you know, and like there wasn't any of that. Like it was all very quiet in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, that's true. I guess unless I'm forgetting something, every like scene where music is at least emphasized, it is completely fake. Like the all the actresses in the kind of like fake, I don't know, recording studio, whatever, are lip syncing, and then the woman performing at the club is lip syncing, and the guy on the, I don't know what it was, trombone, I don't know, was not actually playing. It's everything. It's all fake. I mean, like it's just another, I guess, an extension of like the kind of Hollywood like hammy, like it's not.
Right? So, like, was that a commentary on it being a movie? Like, that's the only thing I could draw from that. It's like,
I don't know.
You're going to add a soundtrack to all of it anyways. So, like, nothing's real. Like,
this is kind of irrelevant, but speaking of soundtracks, I think one of the, I could be wrong on this, but I think one of the two guys that was, like, in the coffee scene, like, one of the Italian guys, is played by Angelo Badalamenti.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Actually, I think I saw that.
Yeah. Which is cool. But I don't know. I didn't know that. I didn't know what he looked like.
Yeah. Seen his name plenty.
Yeah, but pretty cool. Anyway, that was just a aside.
I think about like what you said about music, and also that whole Club Silencio scene, which I think is really cool. It's also like, I feel like towards the switch, like the reality switch or whatever, we get to see more like real emotions, and then in that scene we actually see both Rita and Betty cry, which is kind of the first, I don't know, not necessarily first indication for it, but it's like, I don't know, it feels like the actual emotions of the real like analogy for sure. People are coming through, and also just I have no clue what it means, the like fake instruments, but it's very like strong effect, I think, to see it be so clearly orchestrated, than kind of cutting the strings in a sense, and like showing that it's actually fake the entire time.
I think, have you guys all seen Blue Velvet? Okay, this isn't a spoiler, I get, but there's another. There's a scene in Blue Velvet where a character is also lip sync. Like, I'm realizing now, like, where he's lip syncing to another Roy Orbison song. So maybe that's a David Lynch trademark. I don't know. Maybe it's as simple. But no, I do think that maybe it has significance in Mulholland Drive. But I don't know. He tends to do that a lot, where it's just a very, like, you know, he's got the light as the microphone in Blue Velvet, and he's lip syncing to whatever it is in Dreams.
Well, I think it's also interesting because the way that like movie / Hollywood iconography is so prominent in this movie is the same with like the 60s thing and 60s like suburban thing in Blue Velvet. And I think that both of them have that element in a kind of superficial way, or in a, I guess, artificial, like over stylized kind of portrayal of it. And I think the lip syncing in both those feels the same way, in that it's like, this feels removed from what's actually happening.
Yeah, definitely.
the Club Silencio for me was really interesting because like it brought up a lot of like vaudeville elements in terms of like the ways that people are dressing. Like it reminded me a lot of like Moulin Rouge and the kind of like way that like the heavy velvet curtains and like the dresses and like whatever, right? But like that, because it's like a theater, you know, like the Hollywood and like theater in terms of like, you know, like a musical, a play, that sort of thing, they're like very different types of acting and they're very different like levels of immersion, right? Like when you're watching a movie, you're supposed to like not think about someone acting it, but when you're like listening to a musical or going to like an actual like live theater performance, it's like you can't not know those are actors, you know, like the makeup they wear is so intense and like the ways that people sing like isn't how people sing in real life, and like that's not how people talk in real life, and the set changes are very obvious, right? So like for me, the Club Silencio, and especially with it like it being fake, you know, like no one's actually singing, no one's actually playing any instruments, was like pointing out how the characters were actors, both like to the characters themselves in terms of like, you know, this is a dream, right? You know, but also to us being like, this entire movie is played by people that aren't like showing their true intentions or like putting on a mask or putting on like a show or a performance for you. And like, I don't know, I really like Mulholland Drive because there's so many layers to that of like the actors have to acknowledge it, and then the, you know, like the actual characters of who the actors are playing are acknowledging it, and then they are in a dream itself which is acknowledging it, and so like it can kind of like apply on any of those levels.
Yeah,
but.
Definitely. Yeah, does anybody have anything else?
I think I'm out.
I've exhausted my notes.
I mean, I think the only thing for me was I also really recently rewatched Tampopo, and there's okay, it's really good. It's another one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in it where it's like some intern is ordering food from a fancy restaurant. He's like the only one who like knows what any of the fancy foods are, and like the like boardroom scene with the coffee is like, why is that sort of like, you're in a boardroom, like a weird hotel that isn't a hotel, you know, and like you're trying to have a fancy meeting and you're like so particular about your food, and it's like, why is that like a show of power? And like, why is that like, why that scene to show these like mob boss guys like having this weird controlling conversation? Like, I don't know, that seems like really weird to me, and it reminds me of like 5 other movies I've watched. So
that's I've never seen that, but to kind of like continue the, you know, different movie thing, I guess, were you guys all there for Repo Man?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. You know the scene in Repo Man where it's the main character Otto talking to the guy, I can't remember, I think Miller is his name, and he's like shoving garbage in the fire. And he's like, you know what? Like he's just kind of like just talking, going off on a tangent, but he's like, you just, you know, we live in this odd world where you can be thinking plate of shrimp, and then someone says plate or plate of shrimp or shrimp, and it's like, how did that's what it feels like to watch Mulholland Drive. It's a little bit like, what? And then, you know, later in Repo Man, you can see the advertisement for plate of shrimp in the window. It's like,
that.
yeah, there you go. See, and there's a lot of these little details that are just kind of sprinkled in for you, and I think that like moment of like plate of shrimp ad on the window is like the end of Mulholland Drive, and you're like, oh, the landlord, the whatever, the key to this. But I don't know. That was just my like kind of weak tie-in. Just something I was thinking about though.
One thing that that I think about with Lynch works is his humor is sometimes I feel uncomfortable laughing.
Yeah.
Not because it's like not because of the undertones, but it's like I feel like I should be laughing, like it, but I don't know how to. That wasn't fully formed.
It's okay.
It's really unique. It is deadpan. It's just really unique. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You can elaborate on that.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think, because I have the same thing where I find him hilarious. Like even Wild at Heart, which is so, it's like a comedy in a sense, but all the jokes are like just how over the top everything is. Like my favorite scene in that entire movie is Laura Dern tells Nick Cage that she's pregnant and he smokes 2 cigarettes at once. So it's just like everything's so, not necessarily campy, but just like it's deadpan, like you said.
Yeah.
It's both hard to laugh because it's so prosaic, I guess.
Yeah.
But also the fact that it's so boring and plain is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Especially
I agree.
These extremely surreal landscapes.
Yeah, I think that I was thinking last night like what my favorite joke was from the movie, because I think that's something that I asked like for After Hours, because it's a comedy. You know, there's a lot of material to work with, but in Mulholland Drive, it was a stupid joke, but it's when the assassin shoots through the wall by mistake, and the woman in the room over is screaming, she's like, something bit me real bad. Like, it's so fun. It's kind of out of nowhere, but it is just like, what? Like, this situation is crazy. You know, he's shooting up the office, she doesn't know it yet, but it's just for that to be the joke that's
Yeah.
thrown at you. It's like, whoa, right now. But I like it. I think it's super funny.
Speaking of movie comparisons, that like you were bringing up, I don't even know. Earlier we were talking about the assassination scene,
Yeah.
and it is so familiar, like similar to Pulp Fiction for
I was
me.
thinking
Oh,
that.
okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah,
It's like-
totally.
It's like the way that like assassins are portrayed in Hollywood.
Yes,
It's like
yeah.
it's like I don't even know, when did Pulp Fiction come out? Like 97?
No, it was like 93, 94.
I was saying 94, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought
Something,
it was,
90s.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I watched some video essay about like why 1999 was a weird year for movies or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
The point being, there's like around that same time period, the kind of like gauzy, like trying to like have some like assassin that is so campy, but then like make it more like reality. And both these movies do it in ways that are like so different, but like the end result is kind of the same, and like the humor drawn out of it is kind of the same, and like it's just so strange to me, and also like fun that they overlap, even though like I like this movie a lot more than Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
So like
They feel remarkably similar.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think another example is like a lot of the Coen brothers movies. Like I'm thinking about Fargo specifically, but it's like they're all about these crimes that are just going horrifically wrong and are so violent and bloody. But then it's like these people are so stupid.
Yeah.
Like these people are so dumb. And I think it's a similar like just kind of bumbling assassin. It's like, wow, this would be really serious like in real life, but just watching it on the screen, it's like, man, he just shot the vacuum cleaner. Whatever. Like
Yeah, even like the kind of ambiguous black book that he
Yeah,
grabs.
yeah,
and then
exactly,
his whole
yeah.
mission is in the black book.
you don't even know
It's
what the hell.
and it's like that is a prop. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is
yeah,
not a real
literally,
book.
yeah,
Like no
exactly.
one owns a book that looks
Yeah.
like that. Like,
For
I think,
sure.
like the last character that I feel like is like really interesting that we haven't talked about yet is like the cowboy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know, there's some lady on TikTok that like rents her horse out to be used in movies,
Whoa.
you know? Like
Yeah.
that's her whole thing is like having her horse look like really pretty, and she like walks him around LA, because like how else are you gonna keep a horse in LA? But I'm like, that is not a real cowboy, you know? Like the movie is like trying to make it seem like he's so intense and so mysterious and has this light on like a switch or whatever, and just disappears. But like that is 100% a guy who like rents his horses to movies as props. And he only dresses like that to like get street cred with other like directors, you know? Like
Exactly. He's like so baby faced too. I
Yeah.
forget who plays him, but it was
I
like
don't know.
a weird connection. I remember. I can look it up.
Yeah.
He looks like Bill Burr to me.
That's funny. I know he is an odd looking cowboy, I guess.
and like he's like wearing some like weird vest that like or jacket that looks like a bathrobe, but it's like felt rather than being terry cloth, and it's like that is not
that is
what
not right.
he
Yeah.
doesn't have chaps on, he doesn't have like a neckerchief, he doesn't have his like cowboy hat looks fake,
It's like he's never been out in the sun a day in his life, you know. He's just very
and like the corral that he's in is like for training, like you don't even keep horses in there, like
fake cowboy. Yeah.
He's
Just,
a country musician from Alabama.
What's his name?
Mont Montgomery.
Oh,
whoa, that is.
It's like Mont.
Wow.
I honestly don't know, but I would not be surprised.
Yeah. One more thing.
Go for it.
I noticed is one thing I couldn't piece together is there's a lot of phones. There's a lot of calls. A lot of really important stuff is communicated via phones. I don't know if any of you could dissect maybe.
That's. I mean, you're totally right. I guess like the first, like she calls Diane on the phone, and then she like before that Betty calls the police. I don't know what this is. Maybe it's like they're keeping it contained. I don't know. And it's like, okay, we're getting this info. It's like dream logic, you know. I'm getting this information. We're gonna propel the story forward, but like there's no police involved, and we don't. I guess they do go to Diane's like house, but it's kind of a way to keep it like central, and like I guess from like a construction perspective, like making the movie, but also just like it's convenient because we're in a dream. It doesn't need but I don't know. That's my immediate.
Well, I think it's also interesting because like I don't know what his role is. He's just like the guy who oversees everything. The guy who like sends the mobsters to
in the chair.
make sure that
In the chair,
exactly. Guy in the chair. He communicates exclusively from this like room that's like enclosed completely. He's never shown anywhere else. He's only like in a couple scenes even. Which I think is...
It's all over intercom, right?
It's all over intercom.
Yeah.
Which I think is just kind of a weird, interesting detachment from the like rest of the things that are going on. Like I don't know how else to elaborate on that.
Yeah.
I just think it feels very singular. Like it's
Yeah.
this is like another place that's influencing this place.
Definitely.
Well, my first thought is that like I feel like I've heard something where it's like, oh, you're like trying to lucid dream, like to be able to break yourself out of lucid dreaming. It's just phones work or like technology, because like you never dream about like computers or phones. And so I'm like, maybe there's some theory where like all the phone calls actually happened in reality or something like that, and like they're how, you know, we get information that are outside the dreams. I mean, obviously I don't remember every phone call that happens in the movie, but like I feel like, especially because I mean it's in 2001, so there are like other technologies that they probably are using, you know, like there's no one's like watching TV ever, you know, like why are phones sort of like the only mode of like internet or technology? Because like we're talking about movies so much, and like no one watches a movie throughout the entire movie, you know, and like there's the film cameras, but I think that's like the only kind of other piece of like technology that we see, which is interesting. And then also like Billy Ray Cyrus is in it.
That's true.
Like,
I forgot already about that.
I don't know like what it is about like cheating or like infidelity or like
that's like it's never brought up again either, which is
it's
weird.
just
although I guess you could tie it into the fact that in the like reality, Camilla Rhodes is cheating on him with Betty or Diane or whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. True. Yeah. That's I mean, it's kind of an awesome scene though, just like taken as it is. It's like just as a vignette. It's like, oh, this shit is so.
But does that mean that Billy Ray Cyrus is then a Diane insert as well? Like,
specifically Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah.
From the real world.
Yeah.
Well, who doesn't want to be a pool cleaner? You know. Like,
I don't know. Yeah, all around interesting. I guess we can kind of wrap it up there, unless anyone has like something they want to throw in right at the end. But I guess how I end the episodes is I ask everyone if they recommend this movie. I think I know what the answer is going to be for everybody. But Viridian, Logan, and Will, what do you think?
I would definitely recommend it. I would definitely say that it's a movie that feels like a movie for a long time, and then suddenly stops feeling like a movie, or like what you think of as a movie. And so I don't know. I feel like it's hit or miss for a lot of people, which I think you can say about anything. But
totally.
Particularly this movie. So.
Yeah, I think absolutely I'd recommend it. I watched it a couple days ago. I watched it with my roommate, who's not a film watcher, and I was a little hesitant about it, you know, throwing him into David Lynch. But I think it's actually, you know, aside from the plot, it's surprisingly accessible.
Yeah.
It, you know, I've said this before. It's a very experiential film, and you know, everyone has experiences. Everyone knows how to feel scared. Everyone knows how to laugh. And I think, and because it's just an incredibly well-made movie, it's hard to find, you know, any prohibitive flaws.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I would totally recommend it. Only thing I would say though is I almost feel like you have to watch Blue Velvet first, or like what's the other one, Lost Highway, because I feel like those prep you for how weird and like surreal it's going to be, and then you can just kind of chill and experience it.
Yeah,
That was
I think
like,
that's good.
Yeah, watching it for the first time for me, I was like completely.
Whoa, yeah.
And then the second time, I'd seen a lot more Lynch. I was ready.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think having that base knowledge of like, okay, this is what I should expect from him is like definitely a good idea. I think maybe it's doable either way, but I don't.
Well,
I don't know. Like maybe not. No, I think that's a good idea, and I think for my own opinion, like I think I'm in the minority, at least in the room, of like I could go either way on this movie, but I definitely think it's like one you've got to watch. Just like just in terms of like cultural significance and like David Lynch, you know, all of that. But also like Logan, I think you bring up a really good point. It's even if you don't really get the like meta, like bigger picture, there's a lot of awesome like more granular stuff in the movie that's just like scene by scene. You can like if you watch it as a series of vignettes and take nothing else away from it, it's still kind of like, this is awesome, like this is really fun to watch. So you know, I would recommend it, but I think we're all shouting into the wind because Mulholland Drive. Yeah, there you go. But well, thank you guys very much for joining me. That was really awesome. I think we have a good group. Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.